I am hooking up with my best friend's crush, and it's going terribly. It's been a long day today, and I have just come to realize that Evan, my best friend, is possibly my love rival. All the fun from my life is about to run dry. Really, really dry. Well, Tony, Evan says, his eyes wide, prompting me to speak up at the worst time. What do you say? I tell him, not sure how to deal with the situation. Tony, he says in a desperate tone, you and I know Derek's a looker. But there are better guys in the school. Evan rolls his eyes and then rolls over my bed to look at the other side of the room. Just 2 days ago, he came out to me. Now he has just informed me that he's got a crush on Derek, the same guy I have been sleeping around with for the past 11 months. I have zero idea how to inform him. This day cannot get any worse. You know, when I came out to you, I expected you to be on my side regardless of whatever stupid stuff I do. That's what best friends are for, right? Best friends are for making sure you don't get in trouble. How can having a crush on Derek land me in trouble? Evan asks and turns to me. I suck on my bottom lip. I have absolutely no idea how it can land him in trouble, but I know it can land me in trouble, and by extension, our friendship. My thing with Derek is very simple. A year or so ago, we met at an informal party both our schools had thrown over our high school graduation. It was loud and boisterous, and I had sneaked in a few drinks behind everyone's backs. Obviously, Derek had done the same. By the time the party was over late at night, we had sneaked into a room and, well, done the deed. Obviously, it felt nice. I had just lost my virginity to a stranger, and I liked it. The next morning, I expected it to end at that, but it didn't. We met again and again and again, and before we knew it, we were kind of friends with benefits and kind of together. And now that we were in the same college, I didn't see a good reason to stop. I didn't inform Evan of the same for various reasons, but now that Evan has this crush on him, I understand the issue in that particular decision of mine. It cannot, I tell him and grab my phone from my bedside table. He's a nice guy. I can attest to that much. If not for academics, we would be dating by now. Quickly, I typed an urgent message to Derek. I will not be able to make it today. Who are you texting? Evan asks. No one important, I lie, then lay down next to him. A second later comes Derek's reply, and it brings a smile to my face. Oh no, I will still hold on to hope. Oh, you are. Who is it? No one, really. Come, let's watch a movie or something. Horror. Can we watch horror, please? Oh, you suck, I tell him. The next day, I'm at Derek's place, and our first few hours pass the same way as it always does. When the deed is done and we are sweating bullets like old people in this heat, he turns to me and tries to hug me. In any other situation, I really would have welcomed that touch, but I am in distress, and Derek has got to know he is the cause of it. I've got something to discuss, something important. Wear your clothes. Derek looks at me with a certain expression. I thought you enjoyed seeing me like this, he wriggles his eyebrows for equal measure. I've grown used to his antics, so that doesn't faze me. Derek, talk. Okay, he replies, sighs and grabs his pants and sits up on the bed. What's the matter? Please don't tell me that you want to end this. End what? I ask and dress up. This thing between us, he replies and points to both of us. And what is this thing exactly? I ask, grab a chair and sit down on it. It's not exactly romantic what we are doing here, right? Are you serious? No, I reply. Sorry, things are just bothering me a little. He sits on the edge and tries to grab my hands like always. I let him touch me. Tell me so that we can sort that out together. I'm always here to help. Evan has a crush on you, I tell him. Derek looks surprised, but not too much. All right, he says. I think I get where the trouble's coming from. I don't know how to deal with it. I chew on my bottom lip for a while. He's been my best friend for nearly a decade, and I don't want to lose him over this. Over me, you mean? Derek lets out a disbelieving scoff. It doesn't sound offensive. He has just come to realize his position in the matter. From an outsider's point of view, he is the trouble. Unless he is removed, things are not going to get better. And Derek seems to understand the thought in me. You want to end this between us? He asked, sounding hurt for the first time in a while. So, what was that? Goodbye sex? What are we, movie couples? Derek, that wasn't goodbye sex. You're not doing anything to make me feel otherwise. He gets up and paces up and down the room before stopping at his study table. I have to finish an assignment, if you'll excuse me. We are not handling this like that. Derek turns to me. It doesn't feel like that, Tony. You've just told me that you don't want to hurt your friendship with Evan over that. What other solution have you got? It's not like I don't know you'll choose him over me, he shrugs. Nothing that we do is romantic anyway. Your words, not mine. You're pissing me off, I tell him. Oh, you've just broken my heart and I'm pissing you off? We are sex buddies. How could I have possibly broken your heart when there's nothing between us? Derek looks upset for the slightest second. You rejected my proposal, Tony. Because I need to focus on my studies. I'm not exactly rich. Derek sucks on his lip. Then excuse me, because I've got to keep the wealth in my family. Then he turns his back to me and does not speak a word out of guilt. Good for him. Wordlessly, I grab my stuff from his bedroom and walk out of there after loudly slamming the door behind me. The next day, I am laying on my bed, almost killed by boredom when Evan walks into my bedroom to announce something. However, when he sees the state I'm in, he stops midway and looks at me in confusion. What exactly has happened to you? He asks. Good question, I think. Heartbreak is probably the right answer, but I'm not sure if I want to deal with it, or any following questions. I lean my head to look at him and then rest it on my bed. Don't you have like a test to prepare for? Evan asks, then slipping into the room with feline grace. When the bed dips from his weight, I close my eyes. It's just 10 marks, I tell him. Not gonna decide my future. All right, he says, and pats my leg. Tell that to your parents. Oh, go off, I moan and lie on my back staring up at the ceiling. Seriously? Is everything all right? You've been off since yesterday. I'm going through a heartbreak, I tell him, and I look at him. Then, unwarranted, and before Evan can reply, a tear slips past my eye. Evan catches it and immediately his cool, teasing expression changes into something more serious. Hey, Tony, is everything all right at home? I hum at him, not trusting myself to speak. 2 days ago, when he informed me about his crush on Derek, Evan said that he has been keeping it to himself for the past 6 months. The very thought of that, if I tell him about what's been going on and what's the reason I am crying, sounds like trouble. I am not sure if I am overcomplicating things, but coming out clean at this moment doesn't sound like the best idea. Maybe I think to myself, I can wait a little more. If Evan tries to do anything more, I will tell him. Yes, that sounds good. Any more moves from Evan towards Derek, and I will let him know what happened between us. Maybe because Derek and I have already ended it, and then it will resolve the issue between us. And Evan is a nice guy. Maybe Derek and he will even date. The thought of that settles bitterly in my chest. Do you want me to cook you something? Evan asks. I think we should cook together, I suggest. All right then, get up. A few days later. For the last few days, Derek and I held no contact whatsoever. It's almost actually like we have broken up, separated, and never in a need to return to each other. But then I am in the library a few days later and it's too quiet. And it is then that Derek slips next to me and leans against the shelf. Are you feeling as miserable as I do? Derek asks. Why are you talking to me? I thought you had more important things to do. I do, in fact, but you accidentally happen to be on top of the list, he replies, and a smile follows soon after. A smile threatens to break on my face too, but I manage to keep it. Go away, Derek, I've got to study. Please don't avoid me, he says, and steps closer to me. Are you done with your assignment? I ask. I did it in the morning. You said that midnight was your deadline. How many marks are you losing? Oh, he mutters and slips down the shelf. I sigh and sit down next to him. Our fight kind of messed up my brain a lot. I couldn't work or write. How many marks? I ask again. Oh, I do not care for that. 5 out of 10? All right. But I do not care for that. God, I muttered. I hate rich people. Tony, Derek says then, Please come to my place after college. Can we talk? Or do other stuff? Or anything you want. We can study for your tests too. I kind of want to avoid you for now. For Evan? Yes, I tell him. Why don't you just tell him? Tell him what? That I've been having sex with the guy he's got a crush on? Derek sucks on his bottom lip and then sighs. I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight either, I reply and stand up to go through my list of books again. In fact, I think you should leave, study or something. I don't care. I will leave once you leave, he informs me. And although I still have got 2 more books to look for, I grab my other 3 books and walk away from there. Derek makes a small wounded noise behind me and my heart breaks again. Just how much of it can I handle? More importantly, how long can I lie to myself that I don't like Derek? Surely the dam's going to break loose someday. It's just that I did not expect it to break so soon. A few days later. After refusing Derek's touch in the library a few days ago, I feel like I am lit on fire by the time Sunday arrives. Surely, I think to myself, I can deal with it. It's not like I'm a cat in heat. But then, Evan's watching some erotic thriller, and I know immediately that I've got to see Derek. Just like that, I lie to Evan and arrive at Derek's place. Thankfully, he is in a similar state as me, so when I tell him that I kinda want to kiss you, he grins and pulls me into his home and closes the door after himself. It rained earlier, so the cold hits in all the right places when I slip under the comforters. Derek is like a human furnace, so it feels good to hug him. I hate cold, I tell him. I fucking hate cold. Derek runs a hand through my hair. You hate the heat too. I wanted the rain to happen, and now that it finally has, I hate it. What is my life? You've got no foundation. True, he agrees with a grin. I hate you. Apparently not, he replies and pulls me in a quick kiss. I missed you. I missed you too, I tell him. Maybe we should finally start, dating. I turn a little stiff at that. Evan talked about you earlier. I stop when Derek sighs. You know he attends all your football practices and games, more than I do. That's a good fan. I feel bad that I'm doing this behind his back. You didn't know he felt so much for me when you started sleeping with me. I suck on my bottom lip at that. Doesn't justify what I'm doing right now. Tony, seriously, can we not? Okay, sorry. I hug him tighter this time. We will talk later. Derek sighs but doesn't say anything about that. Let's sleep now. I'll make you pasta later. The one that you like. I grin at him. Thanks, Derek. Derek hugs me at that. The next day, I find Evan lying on the floor of his bedroom when I enter the room. What are you doing? I hope you remember we have to go shopping. Just give me a second, he replies. I peer over his shoulder. You're stalking Derek, I tell him. Evan switches off his phone and grins at me. Something like that, but not really. What do you mean? I mean that I am a respectable man and I do not stalk. Despite the proof. Despite the proof, he agrees and gets up. What do we need to buy? I stomp down the nervousness slipping up my throat and look at him. The usual things, I tell him. Vegetables and stuff, fruits. All right, he replies slowly. But why are you acting that way? It's just, I didn't know you liked Derek so much, Evan. He grins at me. You didn't know I was gay either. You're safe. What are your plans? I ask him once we are out of our house and in the open streets. The rain has done us some good, and the heat isn't as oppressive as it was days ago. It's bearable. Almost as bearable as the smile that Evan wears while talking about Derek. Plans for what? He asks. About Derek. Are you going to tell him or what? I have absolutely no idea why I'm asking him all this, but I need to know how to manage it now that I know it's getting serious. If I do the right things at the right time, maybe I will be able to handle the damage soon to come in my friendship with Evan and relationship with Derek. Because it's been 6 months. Wow. Even the thought of that is awe-inspiring. How long has Evan been hoping to get along with Derek? I'm not too sure about that, Evan replies. I am nervous. Why? Maybe I am the cruelest best friend there can be. He's so popular and all, Evan replies, and I am, well, me. Hey now, don't do that to yourself. You're amazing, Evan. Evan gives me a smile at that. Thanks, Tony. Let's shop first. Alright. A few days later. I am in the class and Evan is absent. Keeping in mind the conversation between us, I believe Derek and I were safe for now, but then, when I was in the class, Evan messaged me that he was going to confess to Derek. What? I whisper to myself in the class, heart in my throat. But you're at home today, aren't you? I message him back. Evan sends me a thumbs down emoji and then follows it up with another reply. I'm coming to college. I'm going to do it. Tony, this is it. Immediately, I look up at my professor, raise my hand, and ask for a break. The professor thankfully agrees to a 15-minute break. I hear several thanks, mate, on my way out of the class, but I reply to not one and immediately call Derek. He picks up after the fourth ring. We've got to talk, I tell him. Oh, is everything all right, Tony? Are you all right? Where are you? I am fine, but we need to talk. I'm in the washroom, just returned from practice, Derek replies. Seriously, Tony, are you all right? It's about Evan, I tell him and hurry on my way to the washroom. Is he all right? Derek asks. He's going to propose to you today, I tell him. We've got to do something. Derek goes silent for a while. Oh, what the hell? Do what? I'm coming, I tell him and hang up. 10 minutes later, Derek and I are sitting in the bleachers. It's drizzling right now, so we are sure that no one will come and look for us. The safest place, I tell myself. But just as I am informing Derek about the need to inform Evan about everything now, even though it's too late now, Evan suddenly appears behind Derek, soaked to his bones and visibly upset. Oh, well, here goes the plan. Evan, I say, and Derek steps aside. You reached quickly. I was already on my way when I messaged you, he tells me. But at least now I know why you hated hearing that I had a crush on him. Did you have fun laughing at me behind my back? Why would you say that? I ask, then shake my head. It doesn't matter, Evan. Listen, I was about to tell you about this, but the time never seemed right. So you went fucking around with him? Evan asks. Evan, I respect you as Tony's best friend, but please mind your language. Evan shakes his head and a tear slips out of his eye. You have really proved yourself the worst best friend ever, Tony. Congratulations. Evan, I call out to him before he can leave. When he keeps walking nonetheless, I grab his hand. Evan, please, let me explain. It doesn't have to end so terribly. I am sure you'll understand. I am tired of understanding you, Tony, so no. Keep your explanation to yourself and shove it up your... He stops, and his cheeks color red. This is not the first time Evan and I have argued, but something about this feels terribly wrong. And then, when I'm the most unsure I have ever been, Evan walks away from me. The same evening. Well, Derek is saying, that could have gone worse. Do you think this is funny, I ask. No, of course not, he replies, and then sighs. What would you like to eat? Nothing, I reply, and get up from his bed. I'm going home. And doing what? He asks. Talking to Evan, obviously. I'm going to explain to him. I cannot let him go. Evan has been my best friend for the longest time, and I cannot let him go over something as stupid as this. And then what happens? Derek asks. What do you mean? When Evan decides to forgive you, what happens? Are we still going to be a thing or not? Will you let go of me for him? I clench my jaw at the barrage of questions. I'm thinking about something else, and Derek here is wondering about something else entirely. For some reason, while he is asking the right questions, it makes me feel annoyed. Can we talk about something else? Of course, he smiles. Just like we do every time. We can. Now is not the time to be sarcastic, I tell him. Derek's smile drops. I proposed to you such a long time ago and you rejected me. I think if we had been dating, then this wouldn't have happened. I'm sure about that, I replied, not thinking clearly. But it's not too late, is it? I'm ending this with you and for the final time. If this is how I get my best friend back, then so be it, but I am not losing him for... Derek smiles dryly, but there's a hint of pain in his eyes. For me, he finishes. I do not correct him and silently walk out of the room. I'm sure he will come to terms with it, just like I have, but most of all, maybe after a talk with Evan, I will have a clearer mind. Maybe then I will be able to return to Derek with actual promises of a romantic relationship. Currently, I cannot hurt him by pushing him between us best friends. When I reach my home, Evan locks himself in his bedroom. No matter how many times I call out for him, he doesn't reply. Silently, then I decide to talk to him tomorrow. Maybe things will return to normal tomorrow. The next day. This morning I sent Derek a text despite myself asking if he was doing well. He has seen my text, but hasn't replied yet. I get it. He has every right to be upset at me, but once this thing with Evan clears out, I'm going to tell him everything I feel. If everything goes well, maybe Evan will even let it go. When Evan's bedroom door opens an hour later, I follow up behind him. "Evan," I say, and notice with sadness the jump in his shoulders. He is clearly not pleased to see me here. "Good morning." Evan obviously doesn't reply. "Can we talk? I can explain myself." "What's there to explain?" he asks and shuffles through the kitchen to cook breakfast, most likely. "I think I've heard enough. And not once did we talk wrongly of you. Doesn't explain that you slept with him when you knew how I felt for him." "Oh, Evan," I say and settle against the doorframe. "It didn't start after you told me. This is not my way of getting to you." Evan turns to me. "What do you mean?" "Derek and I have been at it for almost a year now," I tell him. "We were sort of seeing each other, mostly through... We had sex, but we talked too, but none of it started after you came out to me." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Tell you what? That I am gay or that I'm seeing Derek?" "Both," he angrily replies. "I'm your best friend. I deserve to know." "I'm sorry," I tell him, "but I always assumed it was pretty clear that I am gay. I've been talking about men left and right since we were children, Evan." He hangs his head low at that. "Okay, you got me." "And about Derek," I reply and lick my bottom lip. "It was stupid what we were doing. This entire arrangement of being friends with benefits as if we were in a rom-com, it sounded stupid, but several times I felt that maybe Derek and I would end up together someday, and one day, Evan, he even proposed to me." Evan looks at me then. "What did you do?" "I rejected his proposal," I tell him. "Why?" he asks. I shrug and at that settle down on the chair. Things looked like they were going well between us, honestly, but I still believe that we needed more time to understand each other. For the most part, we slept together a lot. I mean, sure, when we were together, we behaved like a couple, but I still believed we needed time. That's why I rejected him. "And now?" Evan asks. "I've ended things with him," I tell him. "I do not want to lose you, Evan." "Okay," he says and walks out of the kitchen. "I have class." "It's Sunday," I tell him. "Well, then I am going somewhere. I'll see you later." The next day. Obviously, the next day I find Derek in the library. At first, I decide to ignore him for obvious reasons, but then I realize I cannot resist the temptation. Without being fully conscious of what I'm doing, I end up right in front of him. Derek looks surprised for a moment, but then his expression shudders off. "What?" "How are you doing?" "You saw me yesterday," he replies and walks out of the library. I follow after him. "I'm sorry for how I spoke yesterday, Derek. I shouldn't have." "Well, thanks for that. You can go now." "Derek," I say and hold his hand. "Please." "What was it?" "What was what?" he asks. I shut my eyes for a while. "The tickets, Derek. What were they for?" 3 days ago, I saw 2 tickets in his purse of first day, first show tickets for a movie that I have wanted to watch for the longest time now. The movie will be released next weekend, and I selfishly want to know if I can still go out with him. Derek sucks in a breath. "Well, since you don't want to be with me, then what's the point?" A tear slips out of my eyes, and Derek's expression shudders again. "I want to be with you, though." He releases his hand from my hand. "Do you?" he asks, and then walks away. A few days later, it's Evan who approaches me the next time. "You guys separated for real?" I look up from my book. "Who? Derek and me?" "Yeah." "Why?" "For you. I've told you I cannot hurt you." "And you can hurt yourself for me?" he asks. I shake my head at him. "I cannot betray you, Evan. I cannot hurt you anymore." "You haven't hurt me. I came late, that's all," he replies and sits down next to me. For days now, I've tortured myself over this very thing, and I still haven't gotten an explanation about why you guys should not be happy together. "I know it will hurt me," he shrugs, "but I cannot be the reason for your sadness, or his." Evan, you aren't. Oh, please, have you seen yourself in the last few days? He sighs. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of painful to see you two together when I've had a crush on him for such a long time, but honestly, Tony, that doesn't mean I get to ruin your months of relationship with him. I have a crush on him. It will end someday. I'm sorry, I tell him. Please don't feel sorry for me. It makes me feel worse. Okay, Evan. Just tell him, all right? Not in front of me, but tell him. You have hurt him for me. The same evening. Derek obviously doesn't want to see me, but when I insist on it, he opens the door for me and invites me in. My roommate's parents are here for the night, he tells me. I tiptoe to his bedroom then. Derek, I am sorry. Derek sighs. Again? Look, I get that I haven't been the most consistent and honest with you, but I am sorry for having treated you so carelessly. The truth is, Derek, that I like you so much that I fear I am not ready to handle everything. I fear that if we get into a relationship, I will end up ruining it. I don't want to ruin anything with you. Carefully, I hold his hand in mine. I have so much to say, yet I don't know how to say anything, but if you wish to end it now, I will not trouble you. I have never wanted it to end between us, he replies. I can go and kiss him, but I first inform him that I have already talked to Evan and that he wants to see us together, although he would prefer to not see anything. Derek cracks a tiny smile at that, and then I tell him about my feelings for him over and over again, until he has gotten bored of it so much that he pulls me into a passionate kiss. Grateful for his kind nature, I kiss him in return, and then end up crying somewhere in the middle of it. I'm sorry for not treating you well, I tell him. It's all right, he pulls me in a hug. I still have the tickets, so you're safe. I laugh into his chest. Thank you, Derek. A few days later, after saying goodbye to Evan, for he has left for his parents' home for the weekend, I drop by Derek's place. As always, he is busy dealing with his math assignment, one of the last few left for the year. I drop on his bed, having finished my own days earlier, and watch him struggle with a hint of a smile on my face. To say this man will be my boyfriend is an insane thought. Quit looking at me, Derek tells me, or click a picture, it lasts longer. Bold of you to assume I haven't already, when he turns to me. I show him the picture I clicked just minutes earlier. Handsome. What do you think? Derek clicks his tongue. You don't have assignments. Finished long before you can even think of, I tell him, and then lie on my back staring up at the ceiling. A couple of months ago on Derek's birthday, I bought him fairy string lights, and now they hang on the wall right in front of me. I cannot help but look at them now, thinking back to the night we spent together under its warm glow. Ever since that day, this particular wall has become a favorite sight of mine in Derek's bedroom. Moments later, Derek switches off all the lights in his bedroom and pulls down the curtain to lie next to me. Your deadline's midnight. Please don't take another risk. I won't, he replies, and then hugs me. But kissing you is more important. I laugh into his mouth. Rich assholes like you piss me off. Hey, I'm not only that, he grins and kisses me again. I wrap my arms around his shoulders and pull him over myself. What? I whisper. My roommate's not here. I grin at him. Oh, I get you all right. And then I pull him down for another kiss. A few days later, Evan and I are watching a movie when he suddenly turns to me and looks at me for a minute. I pause the movie and look back at him. What happened? I ask. Do you still consider me your best friend after all that? He asks. I gave him a short laugh. I could never think otherwise. He swallows and then slowly puts his head on my lap. I'm sorry, Tony, he says, but I'm glad you're my best friend. Well, I say, and run a hand through his hair, I am glad I'm not the worst. Evan gives a laugh at that. Well, I can be mean in anger. We know that much now, I agree, and we return to watch the movie. Some 15 minutes later, I receive another notification. It's from Derek, obviously, and reads, Want to go for another show? I smile at the reply. A proper date? And after that, my phone doesn't stop ringing. A few weeks into our semester break, Derek proposes to me again. This time, I accepted his proposal. During the break, he invites both Evan and me to his summer house to relax before another grueling semester can begin. Evan first refuses but then accepts the offer. By the end of the break, he had long overcome his previous feelings for Derek, and things are now returning to normal. Thank fucking God. The end. What would you do if you were in Tony's position? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome.